Hello, everybody, and welcome to That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. I am your host, Billy Ancovey, and this week could be the shortest show ever for this podcast. Been going for almost 10 years, and this could very well be the shortest show ever. Going to discuss the Elimination Chamber event, going to preview that event, plus going to discuss NXT Takeover Vengeance Day, and that's really about it. There's not much to discuss. As far as any news really is concerned, but I think if anything to discuss, the first thing that has to be discussed is the news of Lacey Evans being pregnant. Excuse me. So, for those of us who watched Raw on Monday night, she was in a tag team match with Peyton Royce against Asuka and Charlotte Flair. Well, Lacey never got physical in the match. And she backs out of the ring, goes to the floor, and is like, Charlotte, you can't hit me, 'cause I'm pregnant. And, you know, Ric Flair has this look of like, what did you just say? And, like, at first, you're just like, oh no, they're doing a Ric Flair is the father angle, which I still think they're going to do. That's still a cringeworthy thought, a cringeworthy idea. But then we find out over on Twitter and a couple other places that Lacey Evans is 100% pregnant. She and her husband are going to have another child. They have one daughter already who you've seen either in commercials or I think in that feud with Bayley last year. So they're going to have a second child together, which, you know what, congratulations to them. Her husband is the hero of all year because he probably prevented a terrible angle from happening. But it comes at such an interesting time to announce this because of, one, Lacey Evans was advertised for a title match this Sunday at Elimination Chamber, which I'm sure by this point is canceled. I mean, you can't have a woman who just announced she's pregnant compete for a championship. And number two, there is a possibility that she could have had a big match at WrestleMania with Charlotte Flair, which would have given Lacey a huge payday. So, her being pregnant, while, you know, congratulations, comes at about the worst possible time since we are on the road to WrestleMania. And the only thing that I could think of, you know, she got pregnant, is probably going to be the same result that I'm thinking of once this pandemic is over, and we have all these babies being born in the world, and that is, people were getting cabin fever. That's a real possibility. So, like I said, I would assume that the Asuka Lacey Evans match is not taking place Sunday on the pay-per-view, unless they could do like, oh, I found a substitute, blah, blah, blah. But other than that, congratulations to Lacey Evans and her husband on about to have their second child. I mean, I don't have any kids of my own, but I know being an uncle 4 times over, it's a pretty cool thing to witness, you know, having a little person come into the world. Well, you know, while we're talking about the Elimination Chamber, let's just preview the event in its entirety right now. And this might be only because of how unfamiliar we are with everything, the worst booked pay-per-view in recent WWE history. Because, well, until Monday night, we had only 4 matches signed. Now we have 3, well, actually, let me take that back. We had 5 because of what's going to happen with one of the chamber matches. But we're down to 4. And I'm hoping that SmackDown will put a couple of matches together for the show on Sunday. Otherwise, this is going to be the least interesting pay-per-view of all time. And, oh, by the way, this is the final WWE pay-per-view on the WWE Network here in the United States. This time next month, we'll be getting ready to watch WWE pay-per-views on Peacock. So keep that in mind. So, let's go with the advertised matches that we already have. Triple threat match for the United States title. Bobby Lashley to defend the title against Keith Lee and Matt Riddle. I think Lashley's going to hold the title just a little bit longer, so I'm going to say Lashley retains the U.S. title on that one. Then we have 2 Elimination Chamber matches, per tradition. So this first one is Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and King Corbin. The winner of that match faces Roman Reigns that night for the Universal title. So let's just answer the second part of this 2-part question first. Roman Reigns will retain the Universal title. The question is, who faces him? Well, it's not going to be King Corbin, because they really haven't done anything with him. It's not going to be Sami Zayn. I don't think it's going to be Daniel Bryan, as much as I wanted to be Daniel Bryan. I doubt they're going to do Jey Uso. Not on Elimination Chamber. So it really comes down to Cesaro and Kevin Owens. I'm going to put my money on KO only because I think there needs to be one more match between the two. They've had 2 good matches together at TLC and the Royal Rumble. So I think let's just give them one more match before we get to WrestleMania. Let's just make it the 3 for 3. KO wins the Chamber. And we'll go on and we'll lose to Roman Reigns for the Universal title. The other Elimination Chamber match is for the WWE Championship. A little bit of a change this week. Miz pulled himself out of the Chamber match, which, if you think about it from a storyline, story-wise, is actually a smart move because he's got the Money in the Bank contract. Why does he need to be in this match? So, Kofi Kingston, after beating Miz Monday night, now fills that spot. So it is Drew McIntyre defending the WWE title against Jeff Hardy, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, Kofi Kingston, and Sheamus. Sheamus will be the last man to enter the match. He earned that right on Monday. Okay, well, let's just get over the ones we know aren't going to win. It is not going to be Randy Orton. It is not going to be Jeff Hardy. As much as I love Kofi Kingston, it is not going to be Kofi Kingston. As much as it would be cool for AJ Styles to be once again WWE Champion, it will not be AJ Styles. It will come down to Sheamus and Drew. Drew will hit the Claymore kick. Drew will retain the WWE title in the Elimination Chamber match. Now, as far as The Miz, will he cash in the contract? I'm going to say no. I think he's going to wait a little bit longer, maybe till WrestleMania. I think that's when, if he decides to cash in, he will cash in. Just a quick reminder for anyone who cares, Saturday Night Live, Bad Bunny's going to be the musical guest. And I'm only doing this because, well, he is the brand new WWE 24/7 champion. So, Bad Bunny will be on Saturday Night Live this Saturday. Gotta wonder if there's going to be a title change on Saturday Night Live. You wonder if former WrestleMania competitors Colin Jost and Michael Shea will end up winning the title. Please don't do that. Please don't. Well, there was a show this past Sunday night, NXT Takeover Vengeance Day, and I gotta say, I really enjoyed this show. It was a good show from top to bottom. But before I get into the matches, one of the things that was talked about was the arrival of Eli Drake. Oh, I'm sorry. He's no longer Eli Drake. He is L.A. Knight. That's right. Eli Drake is now L.A. Knight. And this is a big story because he and Taya Valkyrie signed to WWE contracts. Also, Harlem Bravado signed just recently to a developmental deal. So, Eli Drake L.A. Knight is going to be on NXT. And part of me is like, alright, they finally got Eli Drake, there. And the other part of me is like, oh, it feels like it's a few years too late. But I'm not going to criticize him. Alright, let's get to the main show. There were 5 matches in total on this show. So start off with the finals of the Women's Dusty Cup Classic. It was Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai against Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart. This was a good opening match. Good, women's tag team action. Everybody looked good in this. I think the one that looked the most impressive in this is Raquel Gonzalez. She has gotten a lot better since her initial debut in NXT, which I want to say is about a year ago, maybe a year and some change. And she's one of those women where, yes, she has the height, but she's a believable wrestler for her height. And I could see her doing something before she gets called up to the main roster. I could see her being a future women's champion in NXT. Like I said, a good match all around. Good spots. Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez win the match. Win the Dusty tournament. The Women's Dusty tournament. I gave this a C+. Meltzer gave this 4 stars. Excuse me. He really, really liked this match. Excuse me. Next match was for the NXT North American title. Kushida was challenging Johnny Gargano. Now, something you got to pay attention to if you have not watched this show. As Johnny Gargano and his crew are making their way towards the ring, Dexter Lumis comes up from behind and basically knocks Austin Theory out, with formaldehyde or ether, a gas kind of smell. So Gargano, worried about what happened to Austin Theory, sends Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae to the back to look for him. So he's got to go one-on-one with Kushida alone. This was a really, really good match. Kushida and Gargano have chemistry together, which is something that you may not see a lot of in wrestling, but they have the chemistry there. A lot of near falls, good back and forth action. Kushida had the hoverboard lock on Gargano. Gargano just would not give it up. They went to the floor a few times. Gargano, ends up pushing Kushida outside. And then ends up getting the pin on Kushida, which I thought was a little bit of a surprise. I thought Kushida was going to win this match, but it was a very, very good match. Johnny Gargano retains the North American title. I gave this a B+. Meltzer gave this 4 3/4 stars. He really, really liked this match a lot. Then we had the men's finals of the Dusty Classic, where it was the Grizzled Young Veterans against MSK. Basically, the story going into this match is a good story of, the Grizzled Young Veterans got to the finals last year, lost, back for a second year, looking to win. MSK, they're the new kids on the block. They have won 3 matches in a row to get to this point. Can they get this last win? And this is a very good match. I think I'm going to say that for the entire show, reviewing this, I just about enjoyed every match there was on this show. You saw some fantastic tag team wrestling in this match. I haven't seen the Grizzled Young Veterans a lot, but they look really, really good. And MSK, I've seen them when they were the Rascals. They are a very good tag team. Just a good mix with the two teams here. And, there were a few times where it was like, the veterans are going to win this match, but MSK finds a way to come back. They do everything they can, and MSK, they end up with the upset victory on the Grizzled Young Veterans to win the Dusty Cup. Bit of a shocker, but it was a good kind of a shock, I think. It really just put MSK on the NXT map as far as these are guys that you're going to want to watch each and every week. I gave this match a B. Meltzer gave it 4.5 stars. Boy, he's really going all over the place with the ratings here. Then we had the NXT Women's Title match, triple threat match, Io Shirai against Mercedes Martinez and Toni Storm. Kind of felt a little bad for the three because now knowing that the match got cut short, they had something going, and the announcer's table had a botch moment. Toni Storm was clearing the table, and the table just collapsed, so it's not Toni's fault at all, but it was kind of a funny moment. I don't think you got to see the true potential of all three in this match. I think there could have been more to have presented in this contest, but you had Io Shirai, arguably the best women's wrestler in the world, end up on top, retaining the women's title. A good match. I thought they could have had more. I think, if Io has a one-on-one match with either one of these women, they'll give them the full time in the near future. So I gave this a B-. Meltzer gave it 3 3/4 stars. Then we go to the main event. Pete Dunne challenging Finn Balor for the NXT title. Oh my gosh, what an amazing match this was. This was just, piece by piece, some of the best wrestling in a main event I've seen in a while. The only thing that I could say was better than this would be Ibushi's 2 days last month at the Tokyo Dome when he won the IWGP title and then successfully defended it against Jay White the next night. This was so good. They just went at it. It was, move for move, body part for body part. They were not holding anything back on this match. It was done very well. Told a fantastic story. Finn Balor getting the win with the 1916 DDT, which you don't see him use as a move to win the match. Usually could be a setup to the coup de grace, but here he uses it to win the match in a very, very good match. I loved this match. This might be, if I did a match of the month thing, this would be my match of the month. I gave it an A-. Meltzer gave it 4.5 stars, so I'm not going to really argue with him here. After the match, Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch come to attack Finn Balor, and then Undisputed Era comes out to save Finn, and then you get that wonderfully done shock ending of Adam Cole super kicking Finn Balor and then super kicking Kyle O'Reilly, leaving Roderick Strong just dumbfounded and confused in the ring. And it was so well done. And what I loved about this is the fact that, you know, the last thing you thought of with Undisputed Era was, oh my God, you know, they're going to break up. I mean, I thought this would have happened a while ago. I honestly completely forgot about the idea of the group splitting up. And Adam Cole does it just like that in one fell swoop in one night. And Adam Cole has now become the biggest heel in NXT. So, it's going to be very interesting to see where they go as far as Adam Cole, Finn Balor, Kyle O'Reilly. And let's not forget Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne is still in that mix right now. So there's a good possibility, you know, whenever they do the next takeover, that the main event could involve those 4 guys. I would not be surprised if it came up that way. But if you didn't see it, I recommend it. It is worth the watch. There's not one disappointing match in the entire show. It is just a very well done show from beginning to end. And for this being their first takeover of the year, they did a very good job match quality wise. Like I said last week, match quality wise, when you looked at that card, that was one of the strongest takeover cards they've had in quite some time. And here they really pulled it off with 5 very good matches. 2 that you could say at least, you know, like I said, if I did a match of the month thing, the North American title match and the NXT title match would definitely be in the discussion for match of the month. You had the right teams go over for the Dusty Classic. And, you know, you had a good women's title match, which could have needed a little bit more time. Now, one thing I will point out is March 3rd is going to be a very busy wrestling night because NXT and AEW Dynamite both have packed shows. AEW Dynamite, that's going to be their last show before the Revolution pay-per-view. They have 2 matches signed for that. The biggest one being the mixed tag match with Shaquille O'Neal and Jade Cargill against Cody Rhodes and Red Velvet. The other match is a 6-man tag team match where it's all 3 members of Jungle Express against the FTR and Tully Blanchard. So it's going to be interesting to see Tully Blanchard, in the ring on that night. And over on the NXT side, you're going to have both winners of the Dusty Cup go in their respective title matches. MSK will challenge Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan for the NXT Tag Team titles, and Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez are going to challenge Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. So you actually have, on that night, 2 good shows alone. You know, both, you have the one show that has the championship matches, and you have the other show that you could say has more of the entertainment value, but it's an interesting kind of entertainment value. So that's, March 3rd is going to be a very interesting television night in the wrestling world. So on that note, that's going to wrap it up for this week. If you guys have any questions or comments, send an email, as always, wrestlingman@thatwrestlingshow.com. Don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at WrestlingShow11. Join the Facebook group. It is That Wrestling Show fan group. You type that in the search bar and you're right there. If you can't find it, it's okay. I put the link in the description of each and every episode. Also, check out our Instagram account at That Wrestling Show. And if you like what you heard here, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/That Wrestling Show. Now to plug friends and podcasts that I like. Check out Our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast with Joe Murata and Michael Quinn. They started a brand new season this week with a brand new segment where they defend an individual or a certain event. This week they defend Steve Mongo McMichael. It's a pretty good argument, a pretty good defense there. Plus, they begin the royal rankings of the best WrestleMania main events. And you're going to want to listen to that because there is specific criteria for that one. Plus, they review an episode of Wrestling Challenge from January 13th, 1996. Yes, it was around in 1996. Who knew? So check it out, Our Vantage Point, the Retro Wrestling Podcast. Also, check out Greetings from Allentown with Peter Winston. He watches an episode of wrestling each week in his own unique way. This time, it's a special kind of episode, as it is a tribute to the Macho Man, Randy Savage, as Peter Winston looks back at 4 memorable angles covered during the podcast of Greetings from Allentown. Also, check out Juice Pro Wrestling, where this week it is part 1 of Faction Warfare. They have Justin Santos from the Get Cho podcast to discuss the show itself, plus the WWE signing spree, and a whole lot more. That is this week on Juice Pro Wrestling. And if you're looking for non-wrestling related podcasts, check out the Three Stooges Throwback. Yes, haven't mentioned this in a long time. Gabe Russo, former guest of the show, comes on as he watches each and every Three Stooges short. All 100, I think it's like 190 of them altogether. This week, he reviews the 22nd Three Stooges short, Three Dumb Clucks. That is this week on the Three Stooges Throwback. Plus, Last Stop Penn Station with Kerry Silken and Ian Riccaboni, where this week it is part 2 of Kerry Silken talking about Hoboken. That is this week on Last Stop Penn Station. Also, check out The Castle Vault, which is a chronological deep dive of Disney animated films powered by Disney+. This week, they discuss the 2003 Pixar film Finding Nemo, which is actually a very good movie. I like that movie, so check it out, Finding Nemo on The Castle Vault. Check out Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, where this week they interview Ryan Barna, a Grammy-nominated writer and sound historian who was the first to record Weird Al and his band on an Edison phonograph wax cylinder. Should sound kind of waxy. Anyway, check it out on Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. And check out Sharks Pond, a South Park podcast, where I watch, review, and discuss each and every South Park episode. This week, I discuss the Season 11 episode, Night of the Living Homeless. That is this week on Sharks Pond, a South Park podcast. Well, I do apologize, everyone, for the shortness of the show this week. There really wasn't much to talk or discuss about. But next week, there will be much to discuss because I will be reviewing the Elimination Chamber event. Plus, we're going to maybe start finding the pieces together, putting the pieces together of the road to WrestleMania 37. On that note, everybody have a good, safe weekend. Stay safe no matter where you are. And when you're done with whatever you do these next 7 days, come back here next week for another episode of That Wrestling Show, the podcast where all pro wrestling matters. And as always, wrestle on.